So, good morning and welcome to this Sustainability in the Marketing Mix webinar here with Cambridge Marketing College. My name's Neil Wilkins, and this is part of the fortnightly marketing and personal development series of webinars that we are running here at the college through this year. Now, this is a topic that probably needs very little introduction, but actually very few marketers are fully embracing this yet. And this is the topic of sustainability in the marketing mix. Now, those two phrases don't necessarily sit beautifully together. They should do, and they can do, but they don't necessarily in all organizations sit perfectly. So we're going to look at sustainability and how it plays out in all of the elements of the marketing mix, but we're also going to challenge that marketing mix. And if you are thinking quite deeply around what those various core components of a marketing mix are, you very quickly realize and understand that actually the word sustainability challenges some of the ways that we have thought of marketing and its purpose and the reason why we encourage people to engage with us and buy our products and services. So what we're looking to do here is to begin to understand how businesses can align marketing strategies with these goals and these objectives and these reasons for being more sustainable. And those are commercial goals. Yes, of course, for a lot of us, we are in commercial organizations, but also balancing these with societal goals and also doing right for the planet at the same time. So this broad kind of understanding of this word sustainability, because it comes into pretty much everything that we're talking about today. So we're going to explore how marketers can embed sustainability into strategies by balancing what we call the triple bottom line: process, planet, people, profit, and all of those other P's that we find making up our day-to-day marketing activities. And I'm going to introduce you to something which you may or may not be familiar with, but it's something I'm calling the mindful marketing model. And this is a redefinition, if you like, of the marketing mix so that it's more aligned with this concept of sustainability. And in that, we have four key components, and I'm going to go into each of these in a little moment. And these are product, people, process, and profit. And we're going to explore responsible marketing principles, because if you think about it, actually, this is doing the right thing. So this is not just about encouraging people to purchase products and services. It's not just about supporting sales initiatives. It's not just about growth per se. It is about doing the right thing for everyone and everything. So that's responsible marketing and the principles behind it. So we're going to uncover some actionable ways that you can make sustainability an integral part of your marketing mix. Now, if you want to go deep into this, I'm going to just flag up a non-profit website service called mindfulcollective.net. That is a resource that has a lot more detail, some case studies, some ways of thinking and some principles, as well as a model that you can actually follow through and implement some of this stuff. So if you go to mindfulcollective.net, you'll be well supported, and there is no cost to subscribe to it, and it will guide you more details in each of these various elements. Now, why is sustainability mattering right now? Well, it does really fundamentally matter to marketers right now. There's a lot of research around this, an increasing amount of research, and it's really driving us as marketers, entrepreneurs, salespeople, business developers, and business owners to really understand that our customers are demanding more accountability from our actions, not just the products and services we offer, but our actual behaviors and our strategies and kind of what we stand for. According to a recent Nielsen study, 72% of global consumers prefer brands committed to sustainability. That's nearly 3/4 of global consumers are now taking this stuff seriously. Regulations themselves across a whole range of different countries and sectors are really tightening things up. In the UK's Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA, have now published rulings on greenwashing. The EU's Green Claims Directive, again, one of a number of different initiatives looking to really kind of tighten and make more secure this whole promise that marketing will serve and deliver to a much higher level of responsibility. So we can choose to be self-accountable to this stuff, but actually coming downstream in all sectors and through all different kind of principles and ways of marketing are coming these rules and regulations. So it is time for us to really take accountability and responsibility for our own actions and behaviors. And we're seeing that businesses that prioritize this stuff, if they prioritize sustainability, they will automatically, irrespective of the product and service mix, they'll begin to outperform their competitors in both brand trust and also long-term profitability. This was promised by the likes of Mark Carney, ex-governor of the Bank of England, many, many years ago, when he famously said that businesses that transact in this way are going to be the businesses of the future. I'm paraphrasing, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. So the key takeaway here is that sustainability is no longer a nice to have. If there's anybody in your organization who says, yeah, we'll kind of deal with that tomorrow, then they're missing out on this competitive advantage and also this new and kind of evolving customer expectation that if you're not playing, you are now becoming irrelevant. So it's not a nice to do, a nice to have. It is an absolutely imperative thing that we consider as we start to roll out our marketing, both strategically and tactically. So the point is, hopefully I'm selling this to you, is that we need to start and we need to start right now. So what can we do to kind of move this forward? I mean, the good news is it isn't rocket science. There are some basic, simple principles. And of course, our marketing mix, which we're going to come on to, really helps and encourages us to think about this in a kind of relatively simple, straightforward way. So that's the upside. The challenge is that there's actually quite a lot to do. So whilst it isn't rocket science, it's not complicated, it's not particularly technical, there is a lot of it. So we want to kind of unpick and start to both define but also prioritize where you can get some quick wins so you can build that momentum and start to move this forward. So let's define sustainable marketing. So it means creating, promoting, and delivering products and services in a way that meets today's needs, and here's the important bit, without compromising future generations. So if you think of our children, if you think of our children's children, if our decisions that we're making today don't compromise their future, then we're making the right decisions. So this goes beyond the typical kind of eco-friendly claims because it integrates ethics, it integrates a long-term impact, it's about responsible business practices and decisions, and it filters into every aspect of marketing. And that's really where these key models have kind of grown out from. So this triple bottom line of people, planet, profit, that really, really simple, very, very high level positioning and a framework that balances and encourages us to balance economic decisions, social decisions, and environmental decisions. So our overall performance, if we make every decision based around people, planet, and profit, we're getting that lovely sweet balance in, being good to everything and everyone. Somebody used the word wholesome with me, and I find myself saying this a lot. And if you've listened to any of my previous webinars, you'll know I use this word a lot. And thanks, Danielle, for raising this many, many years ago when you said, this is wholesome marketing. And I just love that word. It is. It's the right kind of marketing. It's what we know to be true and right. And that was very much in the thinking behind setting up the mindful marketing model with the Mindful Collective. This whole idea of creating a strategy for sustainable business success based around the four key pillars, those four key marketing mix elements that we have to do to be sustainable, which is have the right products, have the right people, work through the right processes, and create profit, the right kind of profit. So it has an economic thing going on here. It also has a bit of a social thing, dealing with and working with the right kind of stakeholders. And it also has an environmental kind of impact and perspective. So it's beautifully balanced. And that is what we're driving to when we talk about these words, sustainable marketing. That's kind of where we're going. So let's break this down. Let's start to look into this marketing mix. So let's begin with product. It's often where we do begin because it's something that's quite tangible. And if you're a service provider, so you don't have physical product per se, then what you can do is you can think of that word product in a generic sense. So think of your products as anything that you deliver in terms of value to customers. Okay, it could be a tangible service or product, but it could be something a little bit more ethereal. Whatever it is you deliver, let's call that product. And the idea here is that we're balancing products that are eco-friendly and ethical innovations. That's what we're looking for here. So sustainable innovation, as we start to reinvent and repurpose and upgrade our products and services, is a growth opportunity, not a cost. Great example is the Body Shop's refill stations, which are often quoted and have been for quite some time now, reducing packaging waste while at the same time enhancing customer loyalty. So you get the customer coming back in because they're using the products to refill. So there is that kind of need to go back to store or back to the place and point of purchase, but actually it's reducing packaging waste. So it's the right thing to do, but it also builds loyalty because you have then cross-sell and upsell opportunities because you've got another face-to-face with the customer. So this is why we're talking innovatively here. We're looking for these win-wins. This is what's really important. So what can you do? Well, you can assess your product impact and improve your sustainability messaging. Start to get really clear on how you're balancing what you say and the impact of your products. You can do this kind of circular economy or circular business solution. So develop things like refills, to use that Body Shop example, take back schemes, upcycling, get people to your customers to return stuff to you so that you can manage and control how that is either recycled, repurposed, reused, or even resold. Some organizations are actually reselling the stuff that gets returned to them. So there's again, a commercial benefit of doing the right thing. It's exciting stuff, this, isn't it? Actually, if you rethink what you do and don't just treat business as usual as a thing, almost business as usual is a pretty ugly concept now. We need to be constantly and consistently innovating in these kinds of ways. So start to think about sustainable innovation and put that into the kind of conversations you have with your teams. Next P is people. People engaging with your stakeholders in sustainability conversations. And when we talk about sustainability and we talk about stakeholders, we're talking about our customers, we're talking employees, we're talking our communities, because all of these people involved in these kind of internal or external conversations are part of your brand sustainability journey. I mean, a great example is obviously often quoted is Patagonia's Don't Buy This Jacket campaign. And if you think about that, that encouraged customers to consider whether they actually really needed to buy new products. I mean, what a bold statement that was. I mean, I'm always, every time I hear myself say it, every time I see it in the textbooks and things, you just think, wow, that was really, really powerful. And, the fact we're still talking about it is part of this engaging stakeholders, because Patagonia must still be so proud of that campaign. If you don't know it, go and research it, the Don't Buy This Jacket campaign, actually encouraging your customers to not buy. And it wasn't done as a gimmick. It wasn't done as a little bit of hype to just get media coverage and profile in social media. This was done as a genuine purpose-driven initiative to actually say, look, guys, we do want your cash. We do want to work with you. We do want you to be a customer, but do you really need to be doing this? Because collectively, as a community, this is not helping the planet. And you think about the brand loyalty that that would create. So even if you don't make the sale instantly, tactically this month, you think that customer is going to be coming back. That customer is going to look at you, put you on a pedestal, and just think about you as a lifetime brand that they want to engage with. So what can you do with that? Engaging at that kind of level takes things to a whole new perspective. So actionable steps really are to develop a customer education strategy around these kind of sustainability thought processes. So as you start to engage and maybe even co-create this kind of value with customers and with stakeholders, it enables you to do things differently to what you've done before. You're not just trading and transacting with product and service. You're going so much deeper, and think about how that can impact on the long-term experience or your customer's lifetime value that you have with that particular customer or that particular persona. If you go and going down this route, you need to make sure that you get everybody on side. So make sure that if you do any initiatives like this, or you begin these conversations, that your staff and your teams and your employees are trained on sustainable marketing practices. They've got to get this, because otherwise it can look at odds with how we've done business before. And if you keep people out of the loop, if they're not really getting why you're doing this and how you're doing this and the reasons behind it, then it's an opportunity to become quite fragmented as an organization. So make sure everybody's aware and bought in. So briefing sessions, getting people to again co-create and innovate. Maybe lunch and learn sessions. I'm always a big fan of lunch and learn, because it's that little bit of downtime, that little dip in the day where people are willing to kind of just be having their lunch, but maybe on a Teams call or in a meeting room, actually in the office. They're kind of willing and able to kind of go to these interesting and exciting places. And of course, if you can also engage the broader communities, not just in your organization, but around. So think about your whole value chain, the organizations and the businesses, just outside of your four walls, but can you engage with them to kind of come on this journey? Because these kinds of marketing and partnership initiatives can really, really supercharge your value chain. There's a lot going on here that's really, really exciting. And when you start to talk about value chain, you can't avoid the idea of talking about process, the next P in our mindful marketing mix. Process is all about thinking about greener operations and marketing practices. The way businesses manufacture, distribute, and market products impacts on their sustainability, obviously on their carbon footprint, and we all know that. And even if you don't have a tangible product, the way that you purchase your services, the kind of services that you have even for your digital marketing, when you know that every single email has a carbon footprint, okay, it might be micrograms, but times by the number of people and the number of emails that you collectively send every day, you think this is a carbon footprint that you need to be taking serious attention to. And when you look at organizations, big multinationals like Unilever, it's a commitment to net zero supply chains by 2039. You know that this is achievable and doable. And if you don't have a net zero commitment, I know this is a bigger thing from your organization, goes possibly beyond your remit in marketing, if you're in that kind of a role here right now. But it is something that you need to be raising at the management team kind of level, or if you have a sustainability team already, you can start to engage with them and say, look, guys, you've obviously got these initiatives going on, kind of strategically, what are your goals? When are we trying to achieve this? And how in marketing can we start to improve our process management? Can we start to improve our systems and our operations, the way that we do business as marketing? How and when and where can we start to do that in a more effective way to enable us to be more sustainable? That's what we're looking for here. So actionable steps are things like reducing your carbon footprint in your advertising, production, and digital marketing. Maybe even go and think to be sort of commissioning a low energy website host, for example. And some of that stuff can be carbon positive, not even net zero. So there's a lot of opportunities here to not just talk a good story, but actually do some proper behavior that supports these kinds of promises. In terms of communication, avoiding misinformation platforms is really important. So, implementing ethical ad placement, using the right kind of social networks. I'm not here to pass judgment on who you're using and say that one or the other is good or bad, but actually making conscious decisions. This is why I call it the mindful marketing mix. It's not about judging and saying one is better than the other. It's about making mindful and conscious decisions so that you can live with yourself as a marketer or as a business owner or as a decision maker, knowing that you've done You've done due diligence. You've been wholesome, if you like, in your mindful marketing activities. And of course, other things, if you do have physical product or you do ship things, optimizing packaging and distribution processes so that they can be as green and as effective and as efficient as possible. And of course, all of this alongside that people P requires you to be talking to people. So this is stuff that needs to be done in collaboration with others. That's obviously really important. So you're not going on this journey alone. It's important to think about all of these elements of the marketing mix as a big discussion from which you can take shared actions and accountability. That's really important. And the really important one, I would say, if you are going to go and try and sell this into others, is the profit P. So we've had product, we've had people, we've had process, and this is the fourth P in the mindful marketing mix, which is profit. And this is aligning sustainability with what we might term more traditional commercial or business success. Now, we know because the research is pointing us in this direction that sustainable brands are already outperforming their competitors. And over time, they're going to significantly outperform them. We know that customers want this kind of activity, these kinds of products, services, and brands. So now is the time to step up and deliver. A great example is IKEA's People and Planet Positive strategy. This is already resulting, according to the research, in stronger brand loyalty with the IKEA brand and increased market share. So there's tangible evidence that this stuff works. So if you start to get any dissent from colleagues in other disciplines who say, yeah, but that's all kind of marketing hype and we don't need to worry about that. And yeah, well, that's going to cost us to do it, rather than being an investment in the customer and in our brand. They're seeing it as a cost. Well, you can see very clearly here, there are evidence pots and there's research available to back up your storytelling as you start to get people on board, that this is actually a commercial imperative as well, because you're not only going to stand still if you don't do it, you're actually, relative to some of the competition, if they're doing it, you're going to fall behind. So aligning sustainability with your pricing strategies to appeal to conscious consumers, for example, is a good one. Showcasing the ROI of sustainability initiatives for customer retention, reduced cost, regulatory compliance, all of the kind of reporting that you do, both commercial and financial, but also some of this more subjective stuff, that subjective wrapper, if you like, in messaging around the core financial performance that you do is really important. This is mindful profit. This is actually thinking, yeah, we made this amount of money this year, but we're going to reinvest a proportion of that into sustainability initiatives because it's the right thing to do to build our marketing sustainability so that this time next year, we can be showing a commercial benefit from that investment. Because if you see this as something that sits on the periphery of your normal day-to-day activities, I promise you it will not work. Okay, so this has got to be something that we're going to weave into everything that we do, putting this at the core of our decision making, but also the core of our planning. And this is where the finance director, this is where your chief executive are going to sit up and listen, because if they can see that sustainability, and it's kind of unfortunate that within some businesses and some sectors we have to do this, but this is the reality. And I've seen this over many, many years of trying to push water uphill, that the commercial reality is if you sell the commercial value of doing this stuff, it's a far easier way to get this running in your organization than if it's seen as a cost. So always position it as an investment. And so, of course, by doing that, you need to then show the potential outcome. So use the research and start to talk in this kind of language, and your life, if you want to go on this journey, and hopefully you will be a lot more straightforward. Now, some of the other P's outside of the core four in the mindful marketing mix are still coming into play here. We just talked briefly there about pricing. Well, there is a psychology behind sustainable pricing. The idea that customers and consumers will pay more for sustainable products is true. We do. You know, bamboo clothing, for example, was a big thing last year. It still is a big thing, you know, and hemp was, you know, being used to create a whole range of different products that you would think, wow, that's made from hemp? What, really? And the answer was yes. So these are sustainable solutions. But customers will only pay more if they see real value. So the thing's got to actually work as well. So if those clothing items start to disintegrate after 2 washes, for example, I'm just making this stuff up as I'm talking, but you kind of get the gist of this, then of course they're not going to see value. So the sustainability thing only goes so far. Products and services have to deliver a core value as much as they do have to be sustainable as well. So if you can balance that value, balance that product and service sustainability with the eco-friendliness, then you're onto a winner. Brands like Oatly, for example, will position sustainability as a lifestyle investment, not just a purchase. And a lot of other brands are doing this now, where you're kind of buying into the brand as part of, as a consumer or as a customer, as part of a set of lifestyle choices. So I associate with brand X and brand Y and brand Z for these particular reasons. And they're part of this mixture of brands that I buy from because they're like-minded. They're like me. That's how your customer and your consumer going forward is going to be thinking. So they're not just trading on the features and benefits or the outcomes of the product. They're looking to see where your sustainability credentials add that beautiful layer of engagement, if you like, that could otherwise be missing. So that's what we're looking at here in this thing. And of course, you can price appropriately. You can increase the price, not drive the price down. Even though this stuff might cost you less, you want to put the price up here because of the extra value that you're giving. So value-based pricing is key. Look into the psychology of sustainable or value-based pricing because it's so important to not think, okay, we've saved a bit of money there, so we can now drop the price. Actually, you could go in the other direction, and successful brands are doing that. So the actionable steps are to use value-based pricing to communicate the long-term relationship and benefits that you're trying to foster here. Offer tiered sustainable product lines, maybe to attract diverse customer segments. If people are willing to go that extra yard or that extra mile because of the value you're bringing, then there's a deep relationship that you can foster. Again, it's part of rethinking the traditional way of going to market. It's exciting. There's a big opportunity here for all of us. Now, place is another one in the extended marketing mix of old, the old traditional marketing mix. And this is all about having sustainable distribution and retail practices if you have a physical element, if you like, to your marketing or to your business. So digital and physical retail, as an example here, should align with sustainability goals. I mean, a great example is Lush's Naked stores with zero packaging, operating on a refill-only basis, a little bit like Body Shop, but taking it to the next level. So this is what we're looking for, is how can you remove the wastage? How can you remove the less tangible now elements of your offer? And if you have a physical venue, if you have a physical destination, if you have actual tangible physical products that go out through distribution into retail or onto the high street, then what can you do there? So the actionable steps are very much to explore carbon neutral or net zero shipping options. If you can do that, again, that's part of this mix. Start to measure it, where you are now and where you're going to be, and actually monitor that journey, because that is, again, another thing you can use in your marketing and communications, much as Lush and others will do. And of course, optimizing store design and any e-commerce that you do for minimal environmental impact, and knowing how your e-commerce store, even if you're digital and you say, well, we're not physical, kind of real world, we're all online, we're all digital, so we don't really have much of an environmental impact. Well, you do, because stuff is being served, stuff is being tangibly delivered to customers. So there's always, no matter what kind of business you're in, there's always a tangible real world element and a digital element that have environmental impacts. So as a marketer, it's your responsibility to pick up on that and know where those gains and where those advantages can be had. Of course, that leads seamlessly into the next P, which is promotion, responsible advertising and storytelling. It's no surprise, is it? Having listened this far and watched the various kind of things unfold in the media and on socials, that customers want honest, transparent sustainability messaging. I do, you do, we all do. Everybody watching and listening to this right here, right now, is probably going to be of the same mindset. We want to be dealing with non-fake brands. We want to be dealing with brands that we trust. And we want to be dealing particularly with brands who are going that extra yard. I mean, Ben and Jerry's integrating social justice into all their marketing, but without activism. So they're kind of treading this really neat balance of, we really stand for stuff, but we're not actually going to go out there and we're not actually going to bang the drum and then get arrested and this, that, and the other. So knowing where your kind of boundaries lie is a really important thing here. And of course, as Ben and Jerry's will do, it is ensuring that any claims, any kind of storytelling, any narrative is backed up by data and evidence. This is going to hold true through all of this marketing mix that we're talking about here. So this is why I keep saying, measure the stuff that you're doing, keep a record of everything, log it all, because if you know where you are now, you know the next few steps you're taking and you monitor those, then the next few, you monitor those, you evaluate this, and you keep doing that into the future. It's a great mindful marketing habit that you're creating. And then you can avoid greenwash. Using third-party certifications like B Corp and Fair Trade and signing up for the Anti-Greenwash Charter and all things like this are great ways to keep yourself both transparent, but also making sure that you are backing up and that you're responsible in everything you say and do. So it plays out, as you're seeing here, across the whole marketing mix. And the reason being is that obviously responsible marketing and transparency is the name of the game. Trust is a real currency here in our sustainable marketing initiatives. There's a lot of research on this one, and again, you can sort of find your own if you want to. But Cone Communications did a recent study and found that 75% of customers are willing to boycott brands they perceive as misleading, even if those brands are giving them products and services that work for their lifestyle. And if they, are not perceiving them as trustworthy and as honest and responsible, they are going to boycott them. So don't think just because you've got loyal customers that they are there and willing to stick with you for life. They're not. They are now looking at you and saying, come on then, guys, step up. Come on then, guys, tell me what you're doing. Be honest and truthful. And if you show me you're a responsible marketer or a responsible brand, yeah, we can carry on this relationship. So disclose product impact and the things that you're doing and the data behind it really clearly. Train your teams in ethical copywriting and responsible ad creation. If you've got an agency, work with them to figure this stuff out. Being responsible in your marketing and highly transparent means it's everybody buying into this. It's not just you listening and watching this thinking, okay, I get this. I'm a responsible marketer. If the person next to you is your colleague or your agency aren't doing the same thing, there is work to be done. And you can kind of see where I'm going with all of this is that it's not complicated. It's actually relatively straightforward, but isn't there a lot to do? This is the tricky thing. And of course, it's going to play out even in our everyday activity. Probably the next thing you're going to do is some kind of digital marketing activity. It's probably your next thing on your list today. So digital ads and websites, as we've already said, leave a carbon footprint. So what are the things that you can do? Well, it is about optimizing to reduce wasteful stuff, be that impressions, be that your web hosting and everything else. There is a little bit of an argument here that says, can you offset stuff? I mean, Ecosia have been a very, very well publicized eco-friendly search engine platform that plants trees from ad revenue. Now, you could say, well, that's great because that's carbon offset. So if we can be using that as an organization or as an individual, then every time we do a search, another tree gets planted. Hey, aren't I a responsible marketer? Well, maybe to a point, but my challenge there would be, okay, it's part of a mix, but it's not the end of the journey. The reason being is I would always say that nature doesn't understand carbon offsets. So if carbon offsetting is part of your brand strategy, I'm going to challenge you and say, okay, but what else are you doing? If you think about offsetting and the way it is, it means that you've actually done something against nature, but you've just done a little bit to try and mitigate it, is really what you mean by offset, isn't it? That whole thing about, I'm going to take this flight, but I'm going to offset by paying an extra pound on my budget airline flight ticket. I'll pay an extra pound and they'll do a little bit of a carbon offset and that'll be fine. And I won't feel so guilty. hold on, you still took the flight. Now, I'm not saying don't take flights. I'm not saying don't do web searches, but you kind of get the point here that carbon offsetting is only a sort of a token gesture. What we're looking at here is tangible evidence that's going to move this game forward. And it is going to play out, and it is going to give us an opportunity to leverage things like AI, which has a massive carbon footprint. The AI will optimize, obviously, your supply chain, your personalization, energy use in campaigns, because, and actually, the resources that you have, you're going to take far less time doing stuff. And Google at the moment has got an AI powered carbon neutral advertising initiative going on. So even they, who are one of the biggest consumers, if you like, of the AI processing and server power that's required to do all these amazing things that we do now with AI, that in itself has a monstrously big carbon footprint. So you just got to wake up in the morning and you're starting to consume. This is the big challenge that we all have. But again, as I say, it's about mindful decisions. If you can figure out through using carbon footprint calculators, and there are many, many available, if you can figure out what your overall carbon footprint is, both personally and professionally, and as a team, you can then go deep into some of the elements and the things that you can improve. So you can begin to mitigate some of those things. And if you can become more and more efficient, that's why there's a process P. If you can become more effective with your product creation and innovation and actually do less but make more from what you're doing, that is the product P. So there's ways of doing it by following these new rules, if you like, but it is about making those conscious decisions. And when it comes to the people thing, I've kind of drip fed into this webinar, this idea that there's a people element going on. You've got to be working with others. You've got to be collaborating and co-creating. So there is obviously, and in essence, there always will be a social impact here within this sustainability piece. As soon as you use the word sustainability, everybody often jumps straight to carbon footprint, green credentials, all the stuff for the environment and the planet. And of course, those are there. But there's also a social impact. So it may well be that you want to start and you want to find where you can make great gains on social issues. It might be that that's your quick win. It doesn't mean you're not going to do the environmental stuff and you're not going to start to have those conversations, but it might be that it's easier to partner with some appropriate charities or NGOs and maybe join some sustainability movements or integrate the impact of these things into your campaigns by storytelling so that you take a stand on a particular social issue. And maybe that's part of your thought leadership as you start to grow these stories. Maybe that's how your brand gets associated with that particular social issue. So it doesn't have to just be the environmental stuff, because a lot of that stuff takes quite a bit of time. It revolves around understanding the processes and the systems within your organization and actually how your value chain works. That could be something for starting off now, but that isn't actually going to see a benefit for a period of time. Whereas this social impact stuff, you could start today. Literally at the end of this webinar, you could start some social impact research and see where that alignment might come through. And it could be that you're already aligned with communities and charities. Maybe you're already doing some of this stuff. Well, this is marketing sustainability. It's already in there. And as you go through this, you will find any of the stakeholders that you engage with, any of the organizations, your staff, your people, the agencies that I've mentioned before, but also your customers are going to be then critiquing how you're interacting and holding information and data and this journey in your organization. So responsible data handling is also crucial to this journey, making sure when I say that you're kind of logging the steps that you're taking and you're watching every step and every little impact of each little footprint that you're making there, is that you're logging it. And the reason you're logging it is because you're having in your organization sustainable data use. Apple's pro-privacy campaigns, for example, are a great example of this. And it basically is enabling us to really shift to what we call a first-party data strategy. In other words, not relying on somebody else or another platform to be holding the data, but actually holding it securely, holding it privately, and really holding on to the responsible need to keep that data safe. So as we log our journey and our progress, as we log and hold on to customer information, part of being a responsible marketer focused on marketing sustainability is to make sure that everything is secure, everything is safe. So when I talk about releasing and being transparent with the storytelling, it's about the appropriate storytelling, not sharing obviously commercially sensitive stuff, but making sure that you're balancing what you're saying with the right people at the right time and keeping the other stuff secure and safe. Really, really important. And once you're collecting all that stuff, once you're logging this journey, and of course, if you've set the targets today as to where you want to be into the future, you can then start to set some KPIs so that you can measure your progress. KPIs are key performance indicators. So the typical things for sustainable marketing, just as some examples to get you started, could be the carbon footprint of your campaigns. It could be sustainable product revenue growth, not just growth for its own sake, but sustainable product revenue growth. It could be your customer trust index. If you're not measuring the trust level that your customer has, and that's not customer satisfaction, it's beyond that. It's not your net promoter score, though that could come into it. But the customer trust index is an interesting one to explore because that is something that is going to go up if you take some of this action and you actually start to work with it. So the actionable step, the final kind of piece of the jigsaw, if you like, is to implement sustainability dashboards for tracking the impact of all of the things that you do from this point forward and integrating this kind of data gathering and then evaluation so that you can report back at the next monthly meeting or however it is that you report back to the management in your organization or your line manager. As you're reporting back the progress that you're making, these key performance indicators show and balance across the whole of that mindful marketing mix. They show the impact and the growth and the sustainability of your product, of the impact on the people, the stakeholders in and around your organization and how they're being positively impacted. You look as well at your process, P, the processes and systems and how you're improving those things, not overnight, but you're on a journey to do so. And the profit P, remembering that everything you're doing here is an investment in your business, for your business, on your business as it moves into the future. So that profit P is an important one to put into that dashboard too. So a final takeaway as we round off this session is to just remember that if you take on this journey of sustainability in the marketing mix, and I really, really do hope that you will, is that sustainability isn't just about doing a good job. It's about smart, wholesome marketing and business growth. And it's that balance between the commercial success that will come if you get this right and can figure it out, as well as doing the right thing for people, planet, and profit.